Being graded on punctuality, I failed miserably. So I apologize to all of you for our late return from executive session. So we are returning from executive session. If I can now have the inspirational moment, Mr. Plank.
Yes, tonight, the inspirational moment will be delivered by Dr. Caution Parker.
Okay. Everyone stand. When you're asked to do an inspirational moment, you think about a lot of things, and you think about what's going on. And I selected the topic of peace. With so much turmoil in our state, in our nation, across the world, I just felt that it was appropriate. And this is by a gentleman by the name of Lao Tzu. It's peace. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Thank you. That's a pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think if we go back to the words that we just said with liberty and justice for all, it's a very important statement that we make every time we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and it is important that we all keep that in mind as we go through our daily lives, not just when we get to judicial systems, but also how we treat each other when we're in community and amongst neighbors and friends, and whether they're friends or not, just how we treat other people. So, Cheryl, thank you very much for those words. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda. If I can have a motion.
Move approval.
Move approval by Ms. Brill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Mackey. If there's no discussion, we'll have the vote at this time. Motion passes 7-0. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. If I can have a motion. So moved by Mr. Plank. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have the vote at this time. Motion passes 7-0. Next on our agenda, we have public participation, and we do have, is that Mr. Willie Singleton? Is that correct? All right, if you'll please come forward. And again, state your name, and also just be aware we do put these on YouTube, so this will be put out there on the web later. I was told I got to advise of that. So.
My name is Willie Singleton. This is my partner, Mr. Brian Williams. We're with Chat Counseling. We're located in Blythewood. We're a counseling firm that deals with behavioral health and behavioral counseling. We offer services to families and individuals from a range of individual counseling, family counseling, group counseling, and many other behavioral forms of counseling throughout our organization. Oh yeah, we also work with many different insurances through Medicaid and also through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Every Blue Cross and Blue Shield that's through their federal plan, state plan, and all the individual Blue Cross and Blue Shield South Carolina plans.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming forward and letting us know about your services.
And if there are any questions that you all have, please, you can send it to our email address. We'd be glad to answer any of those correspondence at that time.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I have some cards I want to give to all of you, so you all.
If you'll hand it to Mr. Davis right there, and he'll make sure that we get those. Thank you. I appreciate it. Or Dr. Davis, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up at this time, but if you would like to come speak before the board, please do so now. Okay. Okay, with no one jumping forward, we will move into our executive session items that are up for a vote. If we can start with student appeals.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that student number 1, we deny the appeal. For student number 2, deny the appeal. And the motion for student number 3, I make a motion that we approve the appeal.
Is that, that one's for later. We'll do those
Are we gonna
separate. So
do that
student number,
separate?
yeah, student number 1.
Okay,
student
so
number
just student number 1 and student number 2 deny the appeal.
Okay, so motion's been made to deny the appeal for student number 1 and student number 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. If we can, with no discussion, if we can have the vote. Motion passes 7-0. We'll now have an appeal on the student transfer request.
Okay, Mr. Chair, for the student transfer, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the appeal.
Motion's been made by Dr. Elkins Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Jackson. Is there any discussion at this time? With no discussion, we'll have the vote. Motion passes 4-3. Next on our agenda, old business action requested. We have approval, revisions to policy IKA and IKAR. Dr. Ham.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you recall, this is the policy that puts us in compliance with the state's newly adopted 10-point grading system. Mrs. Gregory is available if you have any questions.
Board members, questions or comments? All right, if I can have a motion to accept the policy.
So move.
So moved by Ms. Brill. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Mackey. At this time, we'll have the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Next on our agenda, item 9.1, update on middle school. Dr. Ham.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Marsha Mosley, Belinda Taylor, and Keith Price are here to give you an update on the work we're doing to improve student achievement at the middle school level.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman Manning, Dr. Ham, members of the board, and executive staff. Thank you for giving us just a few moments to share some of our successes this year. I want to identify 3, or just briefly go over with you 3. You have the entire report that we gave you. But first of all, we had the needs assessment. With this needs assessment, we partnered with our schools and we went into every classroom in our middle schools. You can see that the needs assessment drove everything that we did. After coming out of the classrooms, we debriefed with the schools, we gave them a written report, and we made plans for next steps and professional development. After we spent the year with the teachers, we went back in at the end of the school year, again partnering with the schools, and had another debriefing where we wrote a report and came up together with next steps for this coming school year. The needs assessment, as I said, drove the PD. Teachers were given PD, all teachers got PD in grade level meetings. Most of our teachers got PD through our microburst sessions. These were short, intense meetings after school on topics that teachers identified that they wanted to know more about. We also went in, the specialist went in and also coached with individual teachers to deepen their skills. And the third way that we gave teachers professional development is with our Teachers of Promise program. And that is where the specialist identified 55 middle school teachers to go in and deepen their knowledge base, deepen their pedagogy and their skills, and then grow them as teacher leaders. We want to support them. We want to keep them in our classrooms and in our district. So we want them to go back to their schools as team leaders, as department leaders, and to grow them as future leaders of the district. And you can see these are some of the pictures from our TOPS meetings. And we appreciate the opportunity again to share, and I believe Mr. Price and Ms. Taylor.
A few years ago, a variety of data sources showed that some of our middle schools were not hitting the same levels of performance when compared to our elementary and our high schools. Elementary and high schools were performing at a rather high level, but our middle schools had taken a dip. And at that time, you may recall that Dr. Ham established middle school success as one of her 9 priorities. And she challenged me and Melinda Taylor to head up a middle school success task force, which is exactly what we did. And we assembled a group of middle school folks, including all 7 middle school principals, to take a look at what we needed to do, what we needed to find to get our middle schools back on the road to success that we're accustomed to having here in Richland too. And Ms. Taylor is going to share with you some of the things that we did throughout the year with our task force.
Good evening. Good evening. This was a great opportunity for me. As you can look at me and tell I'm a veteran middle school person, and that's the area that I've served in. One of the first things that we did was we established a baseline. Why are we doing this? We looked at the historical data, and we looked at the areas of need. We had Jeff Potts come in, and we looked at a range of historical data for the last 5 or 6 years. We wanted to look at trends. We wanted to look at different things that might contribute or impact the decline that we saw in our middle schools. And as you can see there, we looked at test scores, all of the normal things that folks typically look at. And then we decided that we were going to look at national research. If we're talking about middle school success, what exactly does that mean? We had our folks in our committee to look at Breaking Ranks, which is a national document. Also, this, we believe, information from the National Forum. And in your report, you'll also see that prior to this in June, some of us met with Linda Allen, who works with the National Middle School Reform. We asked our teachers and our principals to do some self-reflection. If you want to get better, you have to do some in-depth look at yourselves. And so one of the things that we asked them to do is to, after reviewing all of the literature, we asked them to go back to their schools and look at the things that we had talked about that were examples of a successful middle school. And as you see there, a few of those things were common planning, variety of enrichment activities, advisory clubs, and so forth. We also asked them to look at some of the things that were not being done at their school. And if you'll look at the list, you'll notice that it's exactly the same list. We found a lot of the things being done throughout, but the consistency of where it was being done and how it was being done was a lot different. So then we decided to look at all of those areas, and we created 5 teams. And we collapsed some of those areas, and you can see we have scheduling, curriculum, advisory clubs, teacher support, and enrichment and transition activities. We then gave these committees, folks signed up for these by interest, and we gave them driving questions to actually analyze and look at and do additional research and to come up with some beliefs of things that would ensure middle school success in Richland School District 2. And those folks then came back and presented, and we had the opportunity to ask questions to see why some of these things would work, why some of them might not work, and vetted some of the beliefs so that everybody had a voice. And as a result of that, we had some very passionate and rich discussion and came up with a set of beliefs that we think will help with developing middle school success here in Richland District 2.
At the conclusion of the task force meetings, when all of those beliefs and thoughts and ideas were shared, researched, and discussed, we pulled all 7 middle school principals back in to meet with the chairs of the task force. And we wanted to go through those and to make sure we identified key beliefs that everyone could put up on a pedestal and say, we believe this should exist in our schools, and we're going to commit to focusing on these things. And as a result, in your packet, you see that final list of beliefs that all 7 middle school principals have bought into. And now what they're going to do is they're taking this list back to their schools, and they're working with their leadership teams to identify the things that are in place as well as the things that are not in place. And they've been asked to identify at least one priority area that they're going to work on implementing in the upcoming year. And Melinda and I and Nancy and Marcia and the academics team from the middle level are going to be meeting with principals throughout the year to do progress monitoring, to see how they're doing and what we can do to assist them in their work. And at the end of the year, we'll have a review to see if they're ready to move on to a new initiative or if more work needs to be done on that. But at the end, we've got a set of beliefs that all middle school principals have bought into, so it gives everyone one common target to all be focusing on and moving towards in the years to come. And we feel like with everyone being on the same page and everyone working together with a consistent set of beliefs, we will get our middle schools back on the level of success that we're accustomed to having here in Richland too. And I, Ms. Taylor, and Dr. Mosley would be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you. Board members, questions, comments?
Question. You mentioned progress reports, updates at mid and end of the year. How often will you update us on what you perceive to be measurable benchmarks in your progress?
Sure. I
appreciate your report, all of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's at the discretion of the board. If you like, we can provide those in board briefs and give you an update if you'd like once we have those progress monitoring at mid-year and years in to let you know where they are with that progress as well as what initiatives they already have in place. We'd be happy to provide that for you.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
were all middle schools represented?
Yes, sir.
And were all subject areas in all middle schools represented?
I don't know if every subject area in every school was represented, but across all subject areas, included electives and related arts, were a part of the committee. And all 7 middle school principals were a part of this task force throughout the year.
In those subject areas in those middle schools where they are clearly struggling, maybe out of the normal range of other middle schools, is there any particular focus on those middle school subject areas as it relates to? Here's my point, then I can maybe ask the question better. If the principal has the discretion to select the item that he or she thinks is most important, is there some check and balance to ensure that if he or she selects an item that's not consistent with what the data shows about that middle school, that there's some conversation to say maybe consider selecting another item?
Absolutely, yes, sir. We are in the process of setting up meetings between every principal, including the middle schools, that are meeting with Nancy and Dr. Mosley and her team to focus on key instructional areas that need attention and how the members of their department are going to help them achieve those, so that we're going to be working together to identify what those priorities are.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
As you say you're a seasoned veteran, I'm an old veteran of middle school, 16 years. I'm really glad to see that protocols are being set to establish common planning time. I think that is so critical with middle school students. And I don't know how in the world we got away from that, because when I left, it was still common planning time. But anyway, that was a long time ago, but I'm very glad to see that. That's a good report.
Other questions or comments? I guess kind of in line with some of the other questions that we've heard. I mean, if we're kind of picking one of those areas and working on it this year, we check mid-year, we check end of year. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but it just seems like that's going to take a while before we kind of get to where we're going, versus maybe quarterly checks, maybe a couple key initiatives every year, maybe depending on the size of the initiative. Some might need to be one at a time. Some may be 2 or 3 that could be done. In other words, I mean, you get where I'm going. It just seems like this is a very long track to get where we're going.
And we don't want to skim across it either. Some of these things would require some major adjustments in planning and organization, and some may be more in-depth than others. And our pledge is to make sure that we work with those principals to identify And remember, they're asked to submit at least one. But many of them, throughout the course of the task force and their work and their discussions, had already started on a number of things that they had already planned for implementing in the upcoming year. This group of middle school principals are also working very closely and collaboratively with one another, sharing best strategies and good ideas, and working together. So I understand what you're saying, so just so you are aware, some have a longer road to travel than others, but our focus is making sure that we're making positive, progressive movement in the same direction.
Now, what about resources? So if you have a middle school that's knocking it out of the park, and maybe they have some areas they can certainly improve, but then you have one that really is, maybe struggling more, how are you making sure that the one that needs more folks maybe has more resources available?
We try to divide our time, but certainly we have priority schools, and those priority schools receive an abundance of our time.
Okay.
We are constantly following up. I meet with principals, whether it's in the hall for 5 minutes, how are things going, sit down regularly with those principals, take notes, look at how I can go back in and take my team to support them. So it's the ongoing conversations, it's the being in their campus on a regular basis, working closely with their teachers to make sure that the instruction in their classroom is what should be happening. So those are our priority schools, and we identify those, and we honestly, we make sure that we're hitting those schools more than we are other schools, not to take away from the other schools, but clearly the priorities need us there the most.
Okay, so you may do formal evaluations mid and end year, but you're constantly evaluating
Always.
this progress. So.
And that's part of the needs assessment too, because when we all sat down together, then we could look at, through clear eyes, but looking through the same lens, that these are the practices we've seen in your schools. These are the resources you have in your schools. This is how we can help you with resources. This is how we can help you with practices. And so that we are all speaking the same language and moving the same direction.
Okay, and then last question, so I don't belabor this. I appreciate it. I think that was time from somebody telling me to be quiet. But the last question that I have, so I mean, we have middle school students who maybe they come in and they need some help up front, and clearly those areas we're addressing, but are we also identifying students who are sort of slipping?
We are.
So I mean, it may not be a big dip, but I slid a little.
You'll notice in your report that last year the board provided some resources to pilot in schools, particularly Dent and E.L. Wright, and those teachers were paramount in looking for those students who may be slipping, who may be grade levels behind, and working one-on-one. This year, or working in small groups. This year, I believe the board has added 2 other schools to that, to those resources, and again, we're identifying those individuals so that we work with those teachers, we train those teachers to work with the struggling students, and we pull those students. So we double dip them. They get their regular core, but they also get some more support in a class, in a course.
Okay.
So yes, we are absolutely looking at all students at all levels.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next on our agenda, Dr. Ham, an update on R2I2.
Yes, Dr. Davis will be making this report. This is the last report before it actually opens. That's pretty exciting.
Wow, that is exciting.
So good evening, Chairman Manning, members of the board, Dr. Ham. Mr. Alberts will also join me at the very end of this report to give you an update as to where we are with faculty and staff. The R2I2 Student Advisory Panel met for the last time this school year, and at this lunch meeting, students discussed possible open events for R2I2, possible projects for next year, and the successes that they had in the past year. The students worked in small teams to brainstorm ideas on how to spread the word about R2I2. Students decided they would like to see an opening event. And so some of the features of the event they suggested were dunking booths, and we have some folk lined up for the dunking booth.
That's impressive. Yeah.
And a fair-like atmosphere, as well as tours of the building. And of course, we get multiple requests weekly for tours for the facility. The R2I2 Think Tank pilot also concluded, and our students have contributed $810 to God's Storehouse to help pay for the cost of a new roof. So they're doing their community service and being part of the community and good stewards there. Some representatives from the group presented Ms. Sanders from God's Storehouse with a ceremonial check in late May. If you had an opportunity to come by and stop by during the McWaters experience in the satellite class this year, this was our second year at McWaters. The McWaters R2I2 Business Rotation class was completed in June. This class was led by R2I2's Robin Jones, who's one of our very new teachers. The class was led by Ms. Jones, more than double the participations from last year's initials class. So we've seen some participation increase there. The final presentations were very impressive and included students making proposals regarding the expansion of McWater services to an emerging market in South Carolina, and actually the emerging market, I believe, was Charleston. And so this was a real-time, real-live issue that McWaters is looking at solving. And so our students participated in pitching a proposal for how they can expand into the Charleston market. Business leaders who witnessed the presentations were very impressed with the level and depth of comprehension that the students exhibited. Many of the presentations were demonstrative of post-secondary work. Students were asked some very tough questions by the individuals that were there doing the observations, from cost efficiency to how do they locate the appropriate property, why did they choose that property, what's the benefit of what would be the benefit for expanding into the Charleston market, what would be some of the challenges, and the students did a wonderful job of researching the area and making their proposals to the McWater staff. The R2I2 staff and full faculty got together for the first time for a staff meeting this year, and the teachers quickly bonded over a game of R2I2 Jeopardy, learning more about the vision for R2I2 and began exchanging ideas to work together. In late June, the faculty came together for training and curriculum development. Subjects covered included universal lesson plan template, mastery grading, parent and community outreach, curriculum development, use of social media, classroom management, and boundary spanning. Additionally, teachers have participated in various individual training, some of which include SREB alternative energy training, SREB supply chain and logistics training, PACE, direct, and safe serve. And so I'll have Mr. Alberti step up and give us some information about our incoming faculty and staff.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're very excited. Can't wait to show off our program to you all. And in keeping with that, I wanted to introduce in a different way. I know you've read their bios and you've heard about their programs, but introduce them in a little bit of a different way, our full faculty and staff. Of course, you know myself, Maria, and Sandra, but you may not have been able to put a face with a name for some of our teachers. So some of them are joining us tonight, some are out of town doing various trainings, and some are out of town having fun with their families. So Nick Jones is actually out of training for the SRB curriculum, for the direct curriculum that we're going to be implementing in the CAD/CAM classroom. But a fun fact about Nick is that he's designed and built his own house in Elgin. This included submitting his own plans and completing framing, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and septic systems in accordance with state regulations. He currently resides there with his family, and he says his favorite recipe is his mom's vegetable soup. Kelly Sumter is in the audience tonight. Kelly, stand up if you will.
Hello.
Kelly's our Apple app teacher. She is a diehard Beyonce fan. She's actually part of the fan club, the official fan club called the Bay Hive.
Nice.
She is a former Teacher of the Year from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District before she moved down to South Carolina. And she loves Italian food and koala bears. Kirsten Bullington is our next energy teacher. Kirsten, if you'd stand up. Prior to teaching, Kirsten was a Peace Corps volunteer in Togo. She has conducted research on HIV and AIDS and has an extensive background in biotechnical research, as well as alternative energy engineering, which is handy for our class.
Yep.
Her favorite cartoon character is Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb.
Nice. Yeah.
Michael Ann Fitch is our entrepreneurship/food truck teacher. Michael, since discovering her husband's severe allergy to gluten, Michael Ann has become an expert chef on gluten-free foods and a gluten-free diet, and she espouses the benefits of this to me on a semi-daily basis.
Yeah.
She has lived in several countries, most recently coming home from the Netherlands, where she taught. If she could splurge on one must-have item, she says, quote, shoes, lots and lots of shoes. Alvin Brown is in the great state of New Jersey, completing some training for his curriculum. He recently retired from the U.S. Army and enjoys James Bond and Jason Bourne movies. His favorite foods are candied sweet potatoes and mac and cheese. When asked what his dream car is, he says, one without a car note.
Yeah.
That's right.
Totally agree.
That's right.
Robin Jones is out of town having some fun with her family, so she couldn't be here tonight, but you have met her before, and she's the teacher of our McWaters class that Dr. Davis mentioned earlier. She likes to fish. She is currently taking piano lessons and is a Cowboys fan, and we hired her anyhow. She states the longest line that she has ever waited in was the checkout line at Walmart, and I'm sure we can all relate to that. Jennifer Kane, some of you know, she's our assistant principal coming to us from Blythewood High School. She's also out of town with her family right now, but she likes to play Bejeweled on her iPhone and root for the Carolina Panthers. When asked if she'd choose to live by the ocean, mountains, or in the woods, she replied, neither. She loves the city. So we are very happy, very proud to bring this staff before you and can't wait to get them in front of the students. We're excited about this year. We look forward to welcoming you all to the program and to the building. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I just, real quick comment, and I'm going to take a little bit of privilege. Normally I ask y'all for comments first, but I can't tell you how often when I explain to people what R2I2 is, every single time they're wowed. Every single time. I have yet to find anybody who wasn't just floored by the work that's going on over there and the way that we've gone about, business first and really giving us the direction. And I tell you, if we put your bios up, we have lots of impressive bios, but I think anybody who looked at the staff and the work that they've done prior to coming here would really be impressed with the fact, one, why did y'all come to teaching? I don't know, but I appreciate the fact that you're here and we're excited to have you. And we need more good folks to come to us. So thank you for being with us and for the work. And Dr. Davis, when we do the opening ceremony, I'd really like to make sure that we go beyond some of our normal folks. Let's get City of Columbia, maybe Richland 1 board. I like to really reach out a little bit to some other dignitaries and start letting them know about whenever we do some sort of opening and get them involved as well.
Absolutely.
So, other board members, questions or comments?
I just wanted to add how excited I am personally. Everywhere I go, I talk about it, and people are extremely interested. I got an email from John Baker's daughter in New York, and she was referring somebody to us, and I sent them to Tom Cramner. So we're getting a lot of attention, and so I think it's great.
Mr. Jackson?
And Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Mr. Jackson.
I'll defer to Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Okay, Dr. Elkins Johnson.
I just want to welcome the new faculty and staff. Look forward to working with you guys.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir. Question, the struggle that we were having with not enough representation or not all the slots being taken from some of the home schools, have we modified that? Have we corrected that? Do we have all the slots taken now? Where are we with that?
There is an equal distribution amongst the high schools, and the way we've remedied that is that we've opened up the seats. We've continued to allow for registration, so students that are moving in over the summer will have access to it, and we're leaving registration open for as long as we can. We're putting that in partnership with their home schools. So as long as they're cleared for their homeschool schedule, we'll take them in. 2 of our classes have reached capacity. The others are almost there, with the exception of supply chain logistics. And honestly, that's a hard class to communicate what it's about, so we're going to have to build that over time. But we're pretty pleased with where we are now. Yeah.
So there are no classes in jeopardy of not operating because of too few students?
Not at this time.
Other question, the conference center, when is it scheduled to open? Or is it available to make reservations now?
We hope that the conference center passes the inspection on the 21st and 22nd, although we're focusing on the admin area and the student area. Sure. We don't plan on outside use of the conference center until January. I met with Bill McDaniels from the McDaniel Automotive Group, who Barron referred to me. They've already booked our space for their big event in April. We have 2 proms booked. The first event we plan on having in there is the State of the District in October. We want to shake out all the audio-visual stuff and make sure that all is working before we have any outside folks in. So it's if you walked in it, it looks finished. But
Last question, the library, what's the status of the library?
I would say at least 3 months behind us, which is affecting the way the building looks on the outside. Obviously, they hadn't put on their skin. To open the building, we'll actually put up a plywood wall separating where work continues from the rest of the building. And again, we'll know more about that when we go through the inspection on the 21st and 22nd.
So escalators are up and running and been tested?
I'm sorry, sir?
Escalators up and running and been tested?
You know, I haven't been in the building in 3 days.
Okay.
And the elevators were working. That's part of the requirement for the test. They've got to be able to show how the elevators and the fire alarm system works together. The escalator, I'm just not sure about. I'll know tomorrow. I'm going back in the building in the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, other questions or comments? Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, new business, no action, behavior intervention continuum and alternatives. Dr. Ham?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You know, as we've been continuing over the last couple of years working on student discipline, one of the goals that I think all of us have shared is this idea of having a continuum of services and alternatives that range from things that happen in the classroom that are preventative or classroom management, and then a continuum of services that are interventions, and then appropriate discipline alternatives depending on the nature and the severity of the discipline infraction. So we've had a team that's been working on that to make that report. We have Cleveland Smith and Katinia Davis.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Ham. As you requested, to start our look at the continuum, you suggested that you would like to have some options that maybe you could use as you are doing your deliberation. So Mr. Smith and I have explored a variety of strategies to address your request to do that. The initial option would be a short-term, what we're going to call intervention that you could use. We had a meeting with Dr. Davis and Dr. Perry Mills to discuss how we could implement a short-term. During our discussion, it was determined that in order to implement this effectively, we should pilot with just middle school first and see how it would operate over a school year. And why would we suggest that? Middle schoolers don't have to worry about Carnegie units, so we're not going to be, messing up their schedule, and we want to make sure that we don't do that initially. So we want to start out with a middle school option for those students and look at a short-term intervention, 15 to 30 days. What would we be doing during that 15 to 30 days? We would be providing them, of course, their instruction from the home school and providing them some intense behavior intervention using our learning support services team, so we wouldn't have to provide any additional staff. We would use the resources that we currently have available. We would do family intervention services with them. We would not do what you normally send them to, the BBTS. We would actually have them do individual family therapy because their intervention is going to be short and intense. So we need to get the family in very quickly and get them started with a therapist. And so that would be the implementation of a short term, if that's something that you choose to do. 15 to 30 days, you can decide that. And we did 15 to 30 so that it would fall on the interim, because we want to make sure we're focused on getting them back to school at a time that's going to be very easy for them instructionally. So that would be our short-term intervention. And we would also look at some restorative practices. We would work with Kimberly Hutcherson, our behavior intervention specialist, to help us come up with a list of those that you could use as some options that the students would be responsible for, in addition to the other interventions that we're doing with them. So the short term would be intense, hit exactly upon whatever their behavior was and address that and get them back to their home school.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the extended interventions, this will be for students 45 days along at alternative school. They could be there for a semester if you choose, or for the remainder of the year, depending on the time frame you would like for them to stay there. We will look and develop an individual plan to target individual behaviors with them. We will use our learning support team in collaboration with the staff at the alternative school, Blackwood Academy, to look at the behaviors that these students are exhibiting and look for strategies and interventions that we can use with them to address those targeted behaviors to reduce the discipline with those students. Our learning support team is, along with the staff at Blackwood Academy, will monitor the students weekly to see how they are progressing in those targeted behaviors that we have developed for them, looking at making sure that they are progressing, the discipline is decreasing with them, and the interventions are working with them. The next part would be the referral to outside agencies as needed. With that, it gets a little tricky there. That's why we say about potential financial impact. A lot of the agencies that we looked at, some of them we might have to go ahead and pay for. Some of the students might have to withdraw from our district to go ahead and attend some of those agencies, as well as some of those agencies are residential placements. So when we're talking about residential placements, those will be ones that we would have to pay for. So we wanted to bring that to your attention. Limited options, when we look, we were able to get from the state a listing of different agencies for alternatives, for placements. Some of them are not in the Midlands area. Some of them are in the upstate. Some of those agencies provide these services are in the lower part of the state too. So that's another option, and will give us some limitations in regards to that, but wanted to make you aware of that. Considerations, we talked about the financial impact. In addition to that, the academic impact. Scheduling, when you're looking at placement for students at the alternative school for a long period of time, or even a short period of time, one of the things we need to be aware of are those students taking AP courses. And with those students, we need to make sure that we continue to work with the sending schools, because those resources are there for the students at the sending school. At the alternative school, it's really the general track that they're mainly working with, but they can continue to take the AP courses, but we have to have the support from the sending schools to help us with the scheduling with that.
And that's a part of our future goals. One thing when we met with Dr. Ham to discuss how to approach this, are there opportunities where we could have a very fluid system where a student, yes, they're in alternative school, but maybe they have an option to go back to their home school for a particular course as long as they're maintaining their intervention, they're showing progress. What strategies could we use? Is there an adult that could go with them for that purpose? So that would be a future goal. There would be probably a financial impact. And also looking at developing additional options. Last year you had us develop something for our students who may commit a sexual offense, and we implemented it this year. Are there other areas where we we could implement those types of programs. There is a financial impact. In order for us to implement that program, you did approve a budget for us to do that. We have a coordinator, we provided training, and then we also paid those individuals to come back in the evening and work. And so if we do additionals, that will be a financial impact for the district.
And with our future goals, we have a program that Mr. Cunningham at Adult Ed has been gracious enough to allow students to go to, the out-of-school suspension program. That's for students that have been suspended out of school, where they can go there and they can still work on their assignments with a teacher that can help facilitate that for them. A lot of their work is online, but in addition, they still have a teacher that they can talk to in case they need some questions with assignments. You know, as we look at this, we might be able to expand this to alternative school or some other setting where, you know, students that are suspended out of school can go to continue to work on their work, as well as those students that have been recommended for expulsion and awaiting their hearing.
All right, board members, questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Couple of questions. I think I heard Ms. Davis talk about the, I guess either the lower tier program, the first one would not entail any additional staffing, as if I understood.
No, ma'am, not at this
correctly?
current time, if we just focus on piloting with middle school.
Okay. Feedback, and I think I understood, I think I heard you all say that the people who would be primarily affected in implementing these programs, your Blythewood Academy, your curriculum people who can talk about course offerings, making sure the students have the instruction they need. It sounds as if you've gotten feedback, because one of my things is making sure the people who are impacted have a seat at the table and have had a voice, and you've gotten feedback from them, and it sounds like you have, if I understand.
Yes,
you've gotten feedback from those
bringing
people.
Dr. Mills to the table to talk with him about what this would look like, and Dr. Davis's experience as a secondary principal at a homeschool, really looking at whether or not it would be efficient to try it with high school at this time. And after our conversation, we felt like, no, we need to work on what our offerings would look like first, whether we would do some virtual options, what would that entail, would that be a financial impact?
That was my last question. With your experience with Blythewood Academy, Mr. Mills, being able to provide some feedback and getting away from just a penal system to making sure that we have a comprehensive program in effect. So, yeah, you've answered all my questions. Thank you all so much for your report.
Other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, I have
Yes.
one question. I know you guys mentioned earlier that you will refer to an outside agency. Is that something that the district would have to cover, or these students are using Medicaid?
We have been very cautious in referring as a district out to programs that may bill Medicaid, because we're asking people to use their insurance.
Right.
Now, parents may call us and say, do you have any recommendations, resources? We will give them the suggested resources, but we don't initiate. We wait until the parents initiate, and then we refer them if they
Okay.
ask.
Because you did mention about referring out. The other question is, you mentioned several times about the financial impact. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
something that we included in this coming year's budget?
No, ma'am, we did not include. That's why some of the things we put as future goals, and we
Okay.
brought to you as it would be a financial impact. We know that the board has asked that anything that may be a financial impact, that we not surprise you with it down the road, that you know in advance. So that's why we're coming to you now with a report, so that you'll have time to consider as we go into the budget process.
Did you provide us with any amounts that it could be, or an estimate?
No, ma'am, because this was actually what you want to do, not this was for your use. And so I guess once you tell us exactly what you want us to move forward with,
Okay.
we'll come back to you with a budget.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I feel like that this is a great step in the right direction. I mean, I think, you know, things like out-of-school suspension, I think my question is, you know, why do we still have out-of-school suspension? Like, can we find other alternatives? You know, continue to expound on that. I know there may be financial costs, but are there things we can do to leave students in school, but maybe have some after-school programs with restorative justice being a big part of that, so that we find some alternatives that do keep them in school, yet there is some sort of consequence for what they do, but also education on how to better handle those situations going forward. You know, I feel like there's got to be more alternatives, and I know it's going to probably cost us some money. One of the nice things that we're doing this year is looking at the budgeting process. We're looking at a meeting in August to go ahead and start looking at, you know, what are some things that may be in our budget for next year so that we can kind of work through those things. So it's a good opportunity as we discuss this further to do it. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I think I still want more. And I'm sure that there's, again, y'all told us, we'll give you more, but you got to pay for it. Anyway, so I want to continue to work with this. I really want to hear about some of the restorative justice options because I do think that not only deals with the immediate issue, but gives us some potential future benefit, you know, for those things. And anyways, you know where I'm going with that. So, but I do appreciate, I think this is a great step in the right direction. I appreciate your work to help move this forward. Thank you. All right, Dr. Ham, Superintendent's end of year report.
As is the tradition, we have a video that captures the last year and highlights the key events that took place throughout the year. So we'll let the video roll.
And that's the game. Let's take a look back at some of this year's highlights.
Today we had our Step Up to 6. It's where our 6th grade students will have the opportunity to actually come in and get a sneak peek of what middle school will be like.
The transition from middle school to high school can be difficult for many young students. To help ease this transition, Richland 2 high schools participate in Fresh Start, bringing freshmen in the day before the first day of school. The upperclassmen and teachers give the new high schoolers a tour of the school and hold introductory classes, letting them know how their class schedules will work and what is expected of them, making the transition from middle school to high school as seamless as possible.
Hey, good morning, George. Many here are waking up to scenes like this one. There's actually a creek somewhere back here, but there's so much water you can't tell where the creek ends and the neighborhood begins.
Our fundraiser originally was scheduled to take place the first week of October when the historic flooding happened in Columbia. And we, as a board, a PTO board, contemplated canceling the fundraiser. But then we heard of 2 schools in Richland 1 whose families and students that they service were devastated by this flood.
We felt like it was only appropriate that we reach out to local schools that had been negatively impacted by the flood and share some of our proceeds.
Thus the decision to share 50% of our profits with the 2 Richland 1 schools, Bradley Elementary as well as South Kilbourne Elementary.
The Round Top community really came together to show the schools in Richland 1 that we support them and we want to give this donation and give generously so that they can help these kids in these schools see something a little bit brighter in their future.
It's Friday, the last day of school before the winter break.
Today we are doing the final phase of helping this family out, and we're doing a last minute cleaning, second coat of paint, a little bit of carpentry, drywall, that kind of stuff, and then as you can see we're about to move in all the furniture.
I'm here because, you know, it is the season of giving, and after watching everything that happened in the flood, how can you not be compelled to come out and help those who lost everything? I mean, there's no other, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now.
The effort is a collaboration from an entire community that has provided life lessons to the students.
It's taught me that it's okay to get out there and start doing things, that you shouldn't be afraid or scared to do anything, you just go for it.
It's definitely been a process, but I've definitely learned that even the littlest action and the littlest donation that you do makes so much difference, especially for people who have nothing.
Richland School District 2 leaders considered the many mentoring programs in the district with a desire to build a common ground for all to reference. Sharing the new framework with program leaders, the next step was taken to metaphorically bring everything under one umbrella and share the framework with the mentees. Thus, the creation of Bow Ties and Brunch.
You know, bow ties gives you that extra little snap, that extra swag when you get dressed in the morning and you looking sharp. You feel a little sharper when you have the bow tie on, and you guys look great today. So give yourselves a round of applause for looking so well.
That day, all mentees learned to attempt to tie a bow tie, in retrospect, symbolically tying the different programs together as one. It's a new day, and Richland 2, working with community partners, is putting on another Bow Ties and Brunch conference. The district's commitment is resolute, and the mission of mentoring is a priority.
We chose the theme Draft Day, In It to Win It, because ultimately we're all about the business of preparing our students to be college and career ready.
The draft day that I'm referring to is the day that each and every one of us are going to be drafted as young men to recognize our purpose in life and to pursue our calling.
In the end, all experienced the importance of teamwork as a life principle. They accomplished a goal for the day by providing food packages for 300 people in the community and can now walk away with a clearer sense of purpose.
We're hoping they walk away with a sense of being a part of something greater than themselves, that they walk away with a true understanding of what it is to become a young man in today's society.
If it were not for the mentoring program, I would not be the way that I am today.
The Hispanic population is rising very fast. Last year it was under 7, now it's about 8. So the ways that we can accommodate that is by creating initiatives that will help the Hispanic families in the area.
One of the creations is a Spanish translation group to help Spanish-speaking families communicate more effectively with the school district.
We came up with this idea we can get students that are at a high level of Spanish from Hispanic families to train and be certified as interpreters to go and help in the office and just be stationed there in the office one period a day so that you've got coverage all day.
Before we didn't have the students, we would call the classroom, try to talk to a Spanish teacher or try to locate a Spanish student. And now that we have them available, it's just so much easier for all concerned, especially for the families trying to communicate with their children.
I realized it was much more. You actually are getting skills, you're getting life experiences, and I was attracted by the volunteer, but I stayed and I really am enjoying it now because it's much more than just volunteering. It's life-changing.
I hereby affirm that you have completed the requirements of the South Carolina Legislature, the State Department of Education, and the Richland 2 Board of Trustees, and you are duly entitled to receive your diplomas at this time. Congratulations.
Wow, Richland 2 really had their game on this year. We can't wait to see what it sparks for next year.
Go ahead and take a moment of privilege. As you all know, Dr. Ham has given us her resignation, retirement, not resignation, at the end of next school year. And I just want to take this moment, Dr. Ham, to thank you. We have another great year ahead of us, and I know we're going to continue that work. But I just want to give you a round of applause for your effort, your work in the district. You've made a huge difference. You know, I remember when you came to us to superintendent, I think we had standing ovations just about every meeting. And I have a feeling you're probably going to leave us in much the same way with continued ovations for your work and effort in the district. And you really have brought back a lot of pride. And, you know, I made the comment the other day, I can't think of a single phone call that I've gotten from a parent, a teacher, anybody who has a cross word for you. And in a district our size, that's incredible. And so we do want to thank you as a board for your work. We look forward to, obviously, what we have coming. I know we're going to all continue to work hard, but you will be missed when that time comes.
Well, thank you very much. It has been an honor and a privilege, but I have said, you know, there's still a year ahead. And we're going to be full speed ahead. So it's not goodbye. It's not slow down. It's keep up the good work. But I will always be grateful to have worked here and for the many opportunities you've given me to serve as the superintendent and that everyone has given me to be their colleague.
And I think almost 40 years. Can y'all imagine working anywhere for almost 40 years? It's I don't even think it's heard of today to work in one place for that long. So that's tremendous. Of course, you have more than 40 years of actual work experience, and that's that's hard to find. So we do appreciate your work.
As I said, I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and make sure I finish this agenda here. So we do have our agenda items for the next meeting, and then we'll allow other board members to make a comment.
So, I was busy watching the video. Let me pull them out. Because my computer's already turned
Sorry, I threw you off your game.
I know. My computer has locked myself out. Here we go. We're going to have the update on Elementary 20. If you go by there, there's a lot of work going on, so we'll give you an update on what's happening there, not only with the facility, but with the programming plans, an update on our early childhood education programs. We have a proposed policy revision for policy IKE that has to do with promotion and retention. As you know, there's a reading requirement now for grade 3, so we need to make some modifications to our promotion and retention policies. And finally, we will have a report from the Elementary 20 Naming Committee, so hopefully it'll have another name besides 20 after the next meeting.
Dr. Ham, I do want to mention also the board has requested a budget meeting, and the board has requested more work in IT, the area of IT, which gets pretty in-depth. I think that, and then the other piece that we've asked for is to kind of look at where we are with numbers of students for the school year at our schools, you know, what our school populations look like, and some thoughts on that. If it's okay with the board, in talking with district staff, the meeting that we want to have on the student numbers at schools on day 11 of the school year, that those numbers become accurate at that point. So if we could have the first meeting in August on the budget and the IT issues, and then if we
on
could,
the 16th?
16th, if we could look at that date, and then also if we could look at, once we get to the 11th day, having that second meeting, not because we're just arbitrarily pushing that date, but because that would allow us to have accurate numbers to work off of for where we are today.
I will add that in the meantime, we can send the numbers that we had as of the end of the year in a report to you, but they, they do change.
So that would give us an opportunity to look at what they were, where they are now, and then to talk about
Give you a short update if you'd like us to do
some
that.
options. So you don't have to answer me right now, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
So you're saying after the 11th day?
11th day.
We will schedule a meeting, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, we can go ahead and schedule a meeting now for after the 11th day, but I'd like to have the meeting at that point so they have time to get us the accurate numbers to work off of. We can go ahead and schedule the day. I mean, we know when the 11th day is, when we'll get that data.
On the 11th day is what you're saying, okay.
Or shortly thereafter, yeah. Okay, does that make sense? Is everybody okay with that plan?
What's the date again?
August 16th would be the first one.
And that's for the budget?
That's for budget and the IT update.
And then what about the school population?
The school population, we would go ahead and schedule that, yeah, in September after the 11th. We'll schedule it now, get you a date, but it'll be after that time. I think that'll make better use of our time to look at the current date and look at the trends from last year to this year too. with some of that, as long as everybody's good with it. All right, I don't hear any no's, so I'll assume that's a yes. Any other items you want to see on this or future agendas?
Quick question.
Yes.
It actually jogged my memory when we had the presenters tonight. I think Dr. Miley was kind enough to provide us with you had a presentation a few months ago with regard to how to do business with the district, minorities, things
Right,
of that
yeah.
nature. Love to see where we are with that. At some time, it may not have to be a board presentation per se, but would love to see where we are in that process as to what it takes to do business with District 2, something to that nature. Love to have an update at your convenience.
Okay. And if you have that ready and that fits into the budget conversation without distracting, we could do it then, or we can do it at another time. What you tell us. Okay. Just, yeah, you tell us when. If you're good the 16th, that's fine. If not, we'll take your lead on that. Other items?
And to be sure I'm clear, the meeting with regard to school population.
Right.
We will set a date.
Yes.
After the 11th day.
That's
of
right.
school, we'll set a date.
We can set that date now. I mean, not tonight, but we'll set it within the next day or two.
Excellent.
But
Okay.
it'll just be for after that time. So that way we know when the date is, so it's not like it's being delayed or pushed. It just allows us to go ahead and have the meeting after that date is current.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Miley.
Okay.
I think the 11th day is the 31st of August, so probably.
And you need
it
a
will
few
couple
days
of
after
days
that,
to
yeah.
crunch some numbers, and then maybe either that late that second week in September or the early Labor Days, the
We'll sit down and
beginning of
look
the
at it,
next
but in
week.
that time frame,
Yeah.
so in the first couple of weeks of September.
Thank you.
Okay. Other items? Okay. Last on our agenda or actually public participation. If we have anybody else that would like to speak before the board, please do so at this time. And with no one coming forward, we'll go into board and superintendent comments. Let's start with Dr. Elkins Johnson and move this direction.
Okay, as always, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I'd like to leave you with a quote. If you want to know what someone is truly like, observe how they treat someone who can offer them anything in return. That will show you their ultimate character.
Thank you. Ms. Brill?
I wanted to thank Dr. Ham again. I thank her constantly, but for stepping up to the job and doing such a masterful job of kind of bringing us all together and being extremely successful at all that. Her professionalism and her grace, her quiet calmness about her, I think she's done an awesome job.
Thank you.
And I will miss you, and I appreciate you.
I promise I will miss everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Brill. And we'll go to Ms. Mackey.
Bless you all for your patience. The hour's late. We had some executive session items that we had to take care of, but bless you all for being here and for taking your time to be here. It's summer, and you educators work year-round, and so I just appreciate your time and your patience in being here, and enjoy what precious little remains of your summer. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Plank.
Thanks for the presentations. It was a pleasure getting to know some fun facts about the R2I2 faculty. Also, it's neat to know, Dr. Ham, as you enter your last year, your year before retirement, that the Richland 2 culture has been deeply, the foundation has been deeply set through those four blocks: the character, joy, learning, and community. And I just want to say it's been a real pleasure, and you certainly embody all those. And one thing that I always enjoy is your joy. And it's just neat to be around you, always having that positive attitude. Thank you so much.
Dr. Caution Parker.
Well, one thing, Dr. Ham, retirement is great, and maybe you can run for the board when your deputy did.
Does that count as restorative justice?
Well, you have set quite an example. Great reports this evening. Just really looking forward to another school year with a lot of success that we've been having in the past. And I guess it's time for everybody to hit the road again, huh? Full speed ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
Dr. Ham, is that the theme for next year, Full Speed Ahead? That would be a nice one, I guess. I'm real excited about the opening of R2I2. Vividly remember when it was just a conversation and we had so many challenges with the university we were attempting to partner with, and at one point thought it would never become a reality, and now to be realizing that we're only a couple of days away from it opening is just absolutely nothing short of remarkable. I want to thank Dr. Miley and Jack and many others who, particularly Dr. Miley, who sharpened his pencil to the extent that we were able to do this and do it without having to incur any additional expenses and costs being placed on the taxpayers and the citizens, but by utilizing existing funds. That means a lot. It goes a long, long ways, particularly when you have to go back in the future and ask for additional buildings. People recognize that you've been good stewards of their funds in the past, and they're more inclined to continue to allow you to get the funds you need to provide schools to students who are steadily moving into in our district. Thank all of you for the excellent reports that were given tonight. They're very informative and helpful. Look forward to this next school year coming up. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Ham.
Yeah, you know, school starts just about a month from today, not a week, but next week.
Scared me.
I'm looking at Dr. Guy out there. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh. But for us, it really does start about a week from now. We've been working all summer, but we have our kickoff with our administrative in-service next week. Following right on the tails of that, we have a 4-day conference for our new employees to orient them to the expectations of Richland 2 and their roles, and to say welcome to them. We have workshops coming up for our bus drivers. We have workshops coming up for our substitute teachers. So it is cranking up. Students may have a month, but we have a few days, and we will be into the new year big time. So we're excited about that. But talking about new employees, I do want to say we still have a few vacancies. We're doing a good job of filling them, but if anybody's interested, we're still looking for fabulous employees for Richland 2. There are some positions available, and you can find them on our website. And then starting August the 16th, we're going to have our Step Up to 6 Fresh Start. So we'll be having middle schoolers starting then, and then the first day of school is August the 17th. So it is indeed all just right around the corner. And then on a more somber note, you may have read in the news or heard on the news that Iris Armstrong, who was a 2010 Richland Northeast graduate, has lost her life. And so if you will keep her and her family in your prayers and your thoughts, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Dr. Ham, again, we can't thank you enough for the work that you've done, and you certainly make our job as board members much easier in what you do. We've kind of seen both ends of that spectrum, and we like working with you, and do make that a lot easier. I can, the board is in discussions now about what we do. I can promise you that keeping the strong family commitment that we always have for Richland 2, that trying to make it as seamless and smooth of a transition is certainly on our mind. And so please, keep that in mind as we make our decision about where we're going with this in the future. And I appreciate the extra commitment from the board. It certainly takes a little extra time to, work through some of these decisions. I appreciate everybody's, the board's support and time and commitment to the process. Y'all need to pray for me. So in a month, I will be a middle school parent. So I'm excited that my daughter will be at Den. I see your principal out there in the crowd. So please be thinking of me as I enter into a journey of a middle school girl, and she's all excited about decorating her locker and getting all the important things out of the way. Forget the summer work. The locker has to be right. So we're doing that. So think about me as I go through that. As we said with R2I2. Just a real commitment. And I think when you look at all the partnerships, the businesses, the other public entities, the library, Richland County Council, just the numerous folks that we work with. I think it's a real model, not just in Columbia, but in the state and beyond, for how you can work to really create just an amazing program. So Dr. Albersi and others who are involved, thank you so much for your work. The teachers that are coming on, again, your resumes are amazing, and I hope to see the food truck outside. Don't tell me if it's gluten-free. Just let me eat it, and then we'll see and enjoy it, and then we'll determine whether it was gluten-free afterwards or not. So that'll be a good kind of surprise for us when that happens. But anyways, I do want to thank everybody for their commitment. Jack, your team I know right now is probably busier than anybody getting schools ready. What's that? Sweat, yeah. When nobody's looking, they're doing all the hard work to make sure that everything is ready for all the teachers and the staff and the students and everybody to come back. So we want to thank them for their efforts in that area. And again, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of the summer, and look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. So thank you very much. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?